My brother insists that Grandma's birthday menu must be vegan, or he won't come. But when I bring roasted ham, he loses his mind, and then his wife divorces him. So, over the last few weeks, I don't know what's gotten into my brother, but he suddenly decided he needs to become vegan. And no, it's not like he's been vegan for years, this is very recent. Look, I actually don't have a problem with it. It's his personal choice, he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to go vegan, good for him. But he doesn't have to drag the rest of us into it. These past few days, he's taken it upon himself to spread all the vegan propaganda. I'm not saying veganism is bad or anything, it's just not the lifestyle I want to live. And if there's one thing that really bothers me, it's when people try to force their ideas on you even when you couldn't care less. You don't want to eat meat or dairy? Fine. But don't alienate everyone else for not doing the same. That's all I'm asking. I grew up eating meat, and honestly, I feel like it's an essential part of my diet. More than that, I love non-vegan food way too much to give it up. I'm a total foodie, so it feels pretty ridiculous for someone to ask me to go vegan just because my brother thinks it's the right path. He's also been trying to force it on our parents, which is even stranger. Our parents are obviously much older, and at their age, it's not exactly easy to change their eating habits. My dad loves his bacon and eggs, and if that hasn't killed him yet, like my brother claims it will, I don't think it ever will. It's not like he's unhealthy or overweight either, he looks fine for his age. I understand that my brother's reasoning is ethical, and I respect that. But as far as I'm concerned, I also try to shop ethically whenever I can, unless I'm eating out at a restaurant or something. Anyway, my point is, it's not his place to decide what I can and can't eat. A few days ago, we had a huge argument about it. It happened during a small family dinner, just my parents, my brother, and me. My sister-in-law was supposed to come, but she got caught up at work and couldn't make it. While we were eating, my brother wouldn't stop complaining that there were literally no options for him, because most of the food had meat or dairy. My parents even offered to order him something else, but he refused, and then started criticizing all of us for our eating habits. I'd had enough. I told him that just because he chose to go vegan didn't mean the rest of us had to. Then he started yelling that I didn't care about anything except myself, that we were all selfish, and that's why the planet is suffering. As we argued, things got heated, and he finally declared that unless everyone went vegan, he wouldn't attend any family events ever again. Then he stormed out. Honestly, I wasn't even angry, to me, it was just a ridiculous scene. His argument was that eating meat is bad for the environment. But the man drives a giant truck. My parents, however, were very upset. They didn't blame me, but they did say it wasn't necessary for me to argue with him, that I could have just let it go, and maybe he wouldn't have left the dinner so angry or made that ridiculous declaration. I wouldn't say his behavior hurt me, but it definitely annoyed me. And then, the next day, I got a call from my parents, and from Grandma. They told me my brother had said he wouldn't come to Grandma's birthday unless the entire menu was vegan. It was outrageous. Grandma was turning 81. This woman has lived through so much, and now some entitled grown man, her own grandson, is telling her what she's allowed to eat. She's 81 years old, for God's sake. If she wanted to eat a bowl of ice cream topped with bacon and Russian caviar, no one should say a word. Sure, maybe we'd have to rush her to the ER afterward, but at least it'd be a memorable birthday. It's been a family tradition for years to have roasted ham at her birthday. Every single year. So basically, he was asking us to give up that tradition just to appease his ego. I was pretty sure this wasn't about the environment, or ethics, or veganism at all. It was about control, from start to finish. And it was ridiculous. I told my parents and Grandma exactly that. So when they asked me to talk to him, to try to reason with him, I flat out refused. I wasn't going to be the one to reach out after the fight we'd just had. I told them the only thing he wanted was control over the whole situation, he was trying to play the big man or whatever, and the best way to deal with that was simply to let him be. Don't argue, don't try to reason, because right now, he's not listening to anyone. There was no need to play his game. My parents and grandma weren't happy with that answer, though. They said they believed the only way to fix this was to talk to him. So, I told them to go ahead and talk to him, and they did. But in the end, my grandmother called me crying later that day. She said she had tried to talk to him, but he just wasn't willing to listen to anyone. The final outcome? They decided to have a completely vegan menu, just for him, so that he would come. And I was really angry about it. Why was my 81-year-old grandmother being made to jump through hoops just so my brother could feel important? It was ridiculous, and I told Grandma exactly that. She said she didn't care, as long as both her grandchildren were there. At her age, she said, the only reason she even throws these parties anymore is to be with her family, and she wouldn't be happy if even one person was missing, no matter the reason. I thought it was terrible of my brother to put her through that, and I decided I had to put him in his place. And, well, that's where things may have gotten out of hand. So I'm here wondering if what I did was right or not. Basically, no point dragging it out, what I did was bring roasted ham to the birthday party. I knew it meant a lot to Grandma. It used to be her favorite dish when she was growing up, and that's why it's always been a tradition at her birthday parties. It's not some meaningless thing we do, it has real sentimental value. And I wasn't about to let this be the first year without roasted ham just because my brother was being a total jerk about it. But the moment my brother found out, he completely lost it, started making a scene, yelling that he'd been promised there would be no non-vegan food on the menu. He was shouting at everyone, saying horrible things about me, and I didn't hold back either. I gave it right back to him, because I wasn't going to stand there pretending everything was fine while he acted like an idiot. My parents and grandma might have been willing to tolerate him just to avoid another fight, but not me. I didn't care. He was being ridiculous, and he needed to hear it. Things got heated again. I kept trying to end the argument over and over, because after all, it was Grandma's birthday party, I didn't want to ruin it any more than he already had. But he just wouldn't let it go. Even when our parents and Grandma stepped in and tried to calm things down, he refused to back off. It wasn't until his wife stood up and started screaming that he finally went silent for a moment. And she wasn't just yelling, she was having a total breakdown. Which was shocking, because she's normally such a calm, quiet person, the type who tries to smooth things over. Even during the whole fight, she'd stayed completely silent. So for her to suddenly start shouting in public was something none of us expected. And we were even more shocked when all their personal issues started spilling out right there in front of everyone. She accused him of all sorts of things, and honestly, it was very revealing. She said he always had to get his way, that he had serious control issues, that she was tired of living under his rule, that it felt like a dictatorship, and that she just couldn't do it anymore. Then came the biggest shock of all. She said she'd been thinking about it for a while and had decided she wanted a divorce. She said she couldn't stay with him anymore because of how he'd been acting, and then she stormed out. We were all completely speechless. Honestly, what do you even say after something like that? I had no idea what had just happened. I was still frozen in place when my brother turned on me, accusing me of creating the situation that had just exploded, saying it was all my fault, and started yelling at me again. It was crazy. Because if I'm not mistaken, she'd probably been thinking about leaving him for a while anyway, and I'm guessing the whole birthday party incident was just the final straw, the thing that pushed it over the edge. I'm pretty sure she would have come to the same conclusion eventually, even without the party drama. So no, I'm definitely not the reason for their divorce. I didn't even know they were having problems, and I certainly didn't expect things to blow up like that. That said, I do think she had a very good point. My brother has always had control issues, and this was a textbook example of that. The fact that he tried to impose veganism on everyone just because he believes it's the right way to live? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And really, how did he expect everyone to just go along with it and stay silent? Especially me, I've never been one to prioritize his feelings, because I know he'd just take advantage of that and twist everything to get his way, like he always does. I know exactly how he operates, and I wasn't going to fall for it. Still, as unpleasant as the whole situation turned out to be, I've had doubts about bringing that roasted ham to the party, because, in a way, that's what set him off. And I won't lie, that's exactly what I meant to do. But it was also important to Grandma, and I wanted to make her happy too. So, am I really the bad guy for bringing roasted ham to my grandmother's birthday party and ruining it? Edit. I think this part is important too. After my sister-in-law left and my brother and I had our argument, he went after her. The rest of us stayed and continued celebrating Grandma's birthday. The first person to try the ham was my dad. Then Grandma had some, and she loved it. She was just sad that her grandson wasn't there. Someone even ordered more food delivery that included meat, just so we didn't have to eat only the special vegan menu. In the end, everyone had agreed to that vegan menu only because my grandmother had accepted it, just to make sure my brother would come. But the moment he stormed out the door, everyone started eating meat again. Update 1. Most people in the comments agreed that my brother's divorce isn't really my fault. But they did say that bringing the roasted ham, even after Grandma had made it clear she didn't want it there, wasn't the best move on my part. And I admit, the only people I truly owe an apology to are my parents and my grandmother. Because in a way, I did go out of my way to stir things up at the party, and that wasn't nice. So that's exactly what I did. I went to them and told them I was really sorry for what I'd done. I didn't see any of this coming, and if I could go back in time, I'd absolutely change what I did, because at least then, the whole situation wouldn't have played out in front of everyone, and it wouldn't have been so embarrassing. Honestly, I expected that even if I apologized, they'd still be distant, since they'd been a little cold these last few days. But surprisingly, they all said it wasn't my fault. They said my brother made a huge drama out of absolutely nothing, and that, in a way, he'd dug his own grave and now had to live with the consequences. They told me that yes, maybe I could have skipped bringing the ham, it wasn't necessary, but it wasn't some evil act either. It wasn't the massive sin he was trying to make it out to be. After all, he knew exactly how much it meant to Grandma. And he was the one who'd been so ridiculously stubborn that he made her give it up in the first place. Now he's decided to make things even harder for the family by blaming me for everything that's happened. He's been telling everyone not to talk to me, saying that if they do, he won't speak to them anymore. Basically, he's doing the same thing he did with food, testing how much control he has over people. And honestly, that's the stupidest thing he could possibly do. We're not children. There's no reason for him to be acting this immature and bizarre about all of it. I honestly don't understand why he has to be this way. It's just dumb. I mean, I've always known he has control issues, but it's never been this bad. I don't know what's going on with him, why he's acting like this. In the past, no matter how much we argued, we still respected each other and got along. But right now? Who knows? It doesn't feel like he respects me at all, or even likes me, and I just don't get it. Surely veganism can't mean that much to him, not enough to cut off his entire family and even end his marriage. He wasn't even vegan until last year. So what's all this really about? And like I said, he's been trying to get everyone else to boycott me or whatever, telling them to stop talking to me. It's just so childish. It's ridiculous for him to think that's actually going to work at this point. More than anything, I just feel bad for him, because he's throwing a massive tantrum, and nobody's taking him seriously. It's pathetic, honestly. The fact that he doesn't see anything wrong with his own behavior is just awful. He's on the brink of divorce and still doesn't think he's done anything wrong. What does that even say about him? And how can he blame me for all of this? All I did was bring a roasted ham to a party. Surely, even he can't really believe that is why he's getting divorced, especially when his wife made it clear she'd been thinking about it for a while. So clearly, the ham wasn't the problem. He knows it too. He just needs a scapegoat, someone to blame everything on. And right now, that happens to be me, because I'm the easiest target. I'm the one who stood up to him and told him he couldn't just push people around and expect them to do whatever he wants. We're all adults here. He needs to learn how to manage his emotions like one, not like a spoiled child. Anyway, all that said, this is just a really sad situation for our family. I just hope, whatever happens, we can get through it soon. Because at the end of the day, he's still my brother. I don't want him to be a jerk or suffer because of his own issues. He clearly needs some kind of help, and I really hope he gets it. But if he doesn't, and if he keeps acting like this, then yes, I'm definitely keeping my distance. I won't talk to him. Update 2. Earlier today, my sister-in-law showed up to talk to me. I hadn't spoken to her since Grandma's birthday party. I hadn't heard from her at all. I also hadn't spoken to my brother. She came by a few hours after I got home from work, and she looked really shaken. It was clear she needed someone to talk to. She started by saying she was truly sorry for the outburst she'd had at the birthday party. She wanted me to know that the divorce wasn't my fault, not even a little bit. I wasn't the catalyst, either. She'd already been thinking about it for quite some time. She had just planned to bring it up gently. But after what happened at the party, after the way he acted, she simply couldn't bring herself to wait any longer. She didn't even know that he had made Grandma change the menu just for him. She also said she felt she needed to speak to someone from the family, to give an explanation for what was happening, because obviously my brother hasn't told anyone anything. And she's always been close to us. My parents and I have always liked her, and so has Grandma. She said she didn't want us to think badly of her for that outburst, which, honestly, none of us did, because it was clear she had her reasons. But anyway, she came by today to explain things, and honestly, after hearing everything, I don't even understand how she managed to stay with my brother as long as she did. They've been together for 5 years, married for 2, which is way too long to be with someone like my brother, based on the things she told me. Apparently, there were a lot of things going on that we had no idea about, because they were both so careful to pretend to be the perfect couple in front of everyone. But behind closed doors, it was a completely different story. Apparently, my brother has always had control issues, even with her, and he'd pick fights over the smallest things because he was so insecure and jealous. He didn't like her talking to any men, even casually, and sometimes he'd even get jealous of her female friends. It got to the point where she decided to stop having male friends altogether, just to keep the peace. Basically, she cut off everyone from high school and college who wasn't a woman, and even that wasn't enough for my brother. He started complaining that she was spending too much time with her girlfriends, saying she was neglecting their relationship. It was something they'd been dealing with since the beginning of their relationship, but she thought that after getting married, he'd become more secure and confident. He didn't. And then there was the issue of her wanting to have a baby, to start a family, but he kept putting it off, saying he wasn't ready. The truth is, he never wanted kids. He just made her believe otherwise when they were dating, which was one of the main reasons she decided to marry him and stay with him. Now she feels deceived, and she's absolutely right to feel that way. As she was telling me all this, I just felt so sorry for her. Because at this point, this wasn't even about what my brother wanted people to eat anymore, it was about total control. And it's obvious that she really does love my brother, for whatever reason, which makes all of this even harder for her. The fact that, even though it's so painful for her, she still felt the need to come and explain herself to his family? Honestly, this woman is a saint. I was genuinely furious on her behalf. I couldn't even imagine my brother behaving like that, because despite all his flaws, I thought he at least respected women and his marriage. But clearly, that's not the case. Now I don't feel bad for him at all. He deserves exactly what's happening to him. He can be as upset as he wants, say whatever he wants, but honestly, I'm glad my sister-in-law decided to leave him. No one deserves to go through that. I even told her that if she ever needs anything, I'll help her however I can, that I'd love to be there for her, because at the end of the day, she's a wonderful person, and I wanted her to know that. I also told her she didn't need to go through this all over again by retelling everything to my parents, that I'd be the one to tell them, because I know how hard that would be for her. God knows how difficult it was for her just to come to me and open up like that. She was very emotional when she arrived. I told her that if she wanted, we wouldn't bother her again, but if she was okay with it, we'd love to stay in touch. Because she's honestly such a wonderful person, not just because she was my sister-in-law, but because she's genuinely kind, cool, and sweet. She said she'd love to stay in touch too, she just wasn't sure if we would want that, since at the end of the day, she's divorcing my brother. The truth is, nobody in the family wants to deal with my brother right now, and I'm sure everyone will be much sadder to lose her than to lose him. I don't know what Grandma will think, but at least my parents will hate losing her from the family. And one last little detail for this update, something I think some of you will appreciate. When my sister-in-law left my house, the very first thing she did was go out and get herself a burger. A real burger, with meat. Because apparently, for the past few weeks, my brother had been pressuring her to go vegan too. So the first thing she did after walking out was order herself a big, juicy beef burger. Update 3. I told my parents everything I'd learned about my brother and his marriage. They were completely shocked, and furious at him, because they had no idea he'd been treating his wife that way. For a few minutes, they couldn't even believe the person I was describing was actually their son. That's how much it threw them off. I was worried they might not believe my sister-in-law, but thankfully, they didn't think she was lying. They love her and know her well enough to trust her word. Besides, the fact that my brother has become so controlling lately only made what she said even more believable. She had no reason to come to us and make all that up, and yet she did, because she thought it was the right thing to do. So there was no reason to think she'd invented any of it, especially after being with him for so long. My parents are obviously very upset about all of this. We also agreed that Grandma doesn't need to know anything, she's old, and at her age, it wouldn't be good to put her through something like this. We've been waiting to see if my brother would contact us so we could talk or try to work things out, but honestly, it's probably for the best that he hasn't. If he's choosing to stay away from all of us right now, that's fine, he clearly has his own issues to deal with. It's really sad when I think about it. No matter how much we fought in the past, I always believed he was a good husband. That was the one redeeming quality I thought he had. I even used to think, I'd love to have a relationship like theirs someday. But I can't say that anymore. It's awful to know all this, and a small, selfish part of me wishes I didn't know. But thankfully, that part of me is very small. Mostly, I'm just glad to know the truth now. And I'm even happier that my sister-in-law chose to leave him. That might sound harsh, but that's how it is. Update 4. It's been a year since my last update, and a lot has changed. My brother and I still haven't spoken, that hasn't changed. And after a big argument with my parents, they don't talk to him anymore either. It's sad when a family breaks apart like this, but honestly, we couldn't keep living that way. The only good thing he still does is visit Grandma occasionally. He doesn't mention any of the issues he's had, and he doesn't try to lecture her about anything. He just visits, they have tea, and that's it. As long as that makes her happy, since she wants to spend her last years surrounded by family, we're fine with it. But that's the calmest part of my update, because there's been even more nonsense from my brother lately. And that's part of what caused the huge fight between him and my parents. During the divorce, which was finalized a few months ago, we finally found out why my brother suddenly changed his eating habits so drastically. Sorry in advance for the riddle, but let's just say. She has 2 legs, and my brother wanted to be between them. Yeah. And before anyone says, I knew it, your brother was cheating, technically, no. He wasn't actually cheating, but he definitely wanted to. Apparently, there was this vegan woman he was obsessed with, someone he wanted to share his sausage with, if you catch my drift. As far as we know, nothing ever happened, but he clearly had intentions. And maybe, after making all those sacrifices in her honor, like trying to turn an entire family, including his meat-loving grandmother, into vegans, he thought she'd finally sleep with him. But as of now, that hasn't happened, at least not that we know of. And considering he's now a free man, if he were seeing her, he could easily go public with it. From what we've seen on his social media, they've attended protests together, those Save the Animals marches, and even harassed a few restaurants with their demonstrations. But that's about it. Because of all that, my parents and my brother had the biggest fight they've ever had. They thought, on top of everything else, that he'd also been unfaithful. And honestly, I don't blame them, even you guys in the comments probably suspected the same thing. Anyway, things were said, ugly things, and they haven't spoken since. I haven't talked to him since that day either, when it all blew up at Grandma's house. From what I was told, the argument was awful. My brother called my dad a pig for eating pork, and told my mom she cooks dad just to take him to the slaughterhouse. Then he said that because they eat so much meat, their sex life was probably boring, that they didn't have the right nutrients to stay active at their age. And that's when, allegedly, my dad decided to show him his nutrients to get him out of the house. Yeah, it was one of those fights. But honestly, that's just what my parents told me. I'm sure it was worse than that. And I'm too afraid to ask for details. Because, let's be real, you don't tell my father, a man who's 6 feet 3 inches and weighs 200 pounds, that he can't perform in bed unless you've given up on living. So yeah, in short, as long as my brother doesn't drag Grandma into any of this, we're fine with whatever else he does. I think that's the line for all of us. Update 5. If you remember my brother, the one who went vegan and drove his wife so crazy that she ended up divorcing him, well, I've got some things to tell you. We hadn't heard from him for over a year, maybe 2. Life goes on, and honestly, none of us were keeping tabs on him. He'd even stopped visiting Grandma as much. She just turned 84, and she's tougher than ever. I swear, that woman's going to outlive all of us. There must be something magical in roasted pork, it's like her secret superpower or something. Anyway, this week he called her at home to ask for a small favor. Turns out, he was calling from jail, and needed someone to post bail. Since my parents and I don't talk to him anymore, and he's pushed the rest of the family away with his vegan crusade, the only person left was Grandma. Thankfully, she's in good health, no high blood pressure or heart problems, but she was, of course, worried about him and wanted to know what was going on. His bail was set at $5,000, and Grandma wasn't about to pay that unless she knew exactly why he'd been arrested. She wasn't going to spring some drug dealer or murderer out of jail. Grandma's kind, but she's not stupid. She's noticed how my brother's been drifting away from the family over time, so he had to explain himself fast before the call ended. Apparently, he's still been chasing this girl, though it might even be a different one now, I don't know. And he thought a grand, dramatic gesture would win her heart. Yes, for those who remember, people in the comments once called my brother a crumb chaser. My dad had his own word for him, airport carpet, because everyone walks all over him. Anyway, here's what he managed to tell Grandma in that short call. He broke into a ranch in the middle of the night to free some cows. But between the darkness and the fact that he had no idea what he was doing, he ended up running for his life from the herd, until he got caught in barbed wire. He tore up his leg pretty badly and couldn't keep walking because, according to him, the pain was unbearable. He needed stitches, apparently. At sunrise, some workers found him, helped him out, and once they realized he'd released the animals, they called the police. So he was arrested. He's lucky they didn't shoot him, he was trespassing on private property, after all. And what did Grandma say when he told her all this? She told him there are 2 things she hates: communists, and men who'd let a woman make them give up their favorite food. You have to understand, Grandma grew up during the Cold War, so she absolutely despises anything that smells like communism. I don't like it much either, but honestly, that wouldn't be the first thing that'd come to my mind if my grandson called me from jail. So she hung up on him. I don't know what's going to happen to my brother now. He hasn't contacted anyone else, at least not that we know of. And my parents are in no rush to help him either. Update 6. I've been doing a bit of detective work, since you all kept asking for updates. Okay, maybe I asked someone who might know more, but that still counts as detective work. So, the woman my brother's been trying to impress now isn't the same one from when he first went vegan. I vaguely remembered what the first girl looked like, and after checking her social media, I saw that she's now married with kids, and she's not even involved in those activist groups anymore. The new girl is someone else entirely, at least, that's who's been showing up in a lot of his recent photos. As for my brother, he did manage to post bail. One of his friends helped him get a loan, which also covered the damages he caused to the ranch. Apparently, when he released the animals, they panicked and caused a mess, and some even got injured while running around scared. His little act of heroic liberation turned out to be very expensive. According to his friend, the loan was for over $25,000, about $5,000 for bail, and the rest for damages. And to top it off, he's now been expelled from that activist group. Apparently, they don't condone illegal or violent acts. They're the kind of vegans who just want to raise awareness peacefully, not break into private property. Those are the kind of vegans I can get behind, live and let live. They also kicked him out because he caused harm to the very animals he was trying to save. Honestly, I don't understand why my brother does all of this for other women. He already had a great one, okay, maybe not perfect, but a very good woman by his side. The grass isn't greener on the other side, especially when you've burned down the fence trying to get there. He really needs help. For those wondering, yes, his ex-wife is still kind of part of the family. We basically adopted her as an honorary friend of the family. She even comes to some of our gatherings, like Grandma's last birthday. I don't know what will happen with my brother. Despite everything that's happened, he's made no effort to contact us, which, honestly, is for the best. We're grateful not to be dragged into his chaos anymore. Maybe we'll see him again in a few years, when he's come up with another brilliant, insane plan like this one. Edit. My dad had one final comment about the whole thing. He said something along the lines of, "Good thing he didn't have anything hanging between his legs, because that would have really hurt when he got caught on that barbed wire." Those weren't his exact words, but you get the idea.